He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I want to thank my buddy Ben Shapiro for sitting in yesterday. Well, I brought my parents to Virginia. It was an ordeal, let me tell you. And I have many people to thank, but that's what I've done. And this Hurricane Irma, it's flipping and flopping. They were so sure, 8 hours ago, 12 hours ago, that it was going to focus mostly on the east coast of Florida. Now they're talking about a sort of a lurch towards the central and left coast of Florida, west coast. I have no idea. I just know it's a big damn thing. I don't know if it's the biggest in history. Why does that matter? Why does that matter? It is a Hurricane 5. It's going to be a Hurricane 4. That's a big damn hurricane, any way you count it. But here we are. It's now Friday evening on the East Coast, getting to be late Friday afternoon on the West Coast. And the fact of the matter is they're not sure exactly where it's going to hit. And I only point that out, not because I think the meteorologists and climatologists and all the other experts are foolish and so forth. No, I think they're great professionals. But it also underscores this nonsense about climate change, that they think they have these models and they can figure out exactly what's causing it and what needs to be done and why and what the hottest day is and the coldest day. It's simply not true. It's a little academic right now, I understand, in the middle of a hurricane, but you've got these politicians who keep pushing it, as we'll find out later in the show. It's just appalling. And, of course, this is exhausting. Then there's another hurricane moving behind it. I don't know where that's going either. So, anytime there's a tragedy, anytime Mother Nature does something horrific, the left and the government, and by the way, a lot of Republicans, too, look for an opportunity to expand government. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. All right, I started talking about this on Wednesday, and I want to get back to it because it's actually gotten worse. To listen to the president's surrogates like Huckabee and Gingrich and to read Buchanan. Really? Is this some kind of a joke? So Trump is angry with the rhinos in Congress. Actually, I've been angry with the rhinos in Congress for a longer time than he ever has. He's angry with the rhinos in Congress. And so he's figured out a way to influence them or get back at them. It's to lurch left and work with Schumer and Pelosi. Does that make sense to anybody? Let me tell you what's been lacking here. And I hate to say this, but I call him as I see him. Leadership. When you're president of the United States and you run as the nominee of the Republican Party, you're the leader of the Republican Party. You need to take charge and control the leadership of the Republican Party. That's how it works. That's what Reagan did. That's what all these guys do. The fact that Trump hasn't done that, but instead is at war with the leadership rather than trying to get them replaced early on, has been a fault of his, has been a failing of his. Nobody's been more critical of Mitch McConnell for a longer period of time than I. Nobody's been more critical of Paul Ryan in the last 6 months than I. That's the truth. McConnell's been obvious for a long time. The president went ahead and endorsed McConnell's lapdog candidate in Alabama, then attacks McConnell, then makes up with McConnell, and then works with Pelosi and Schumer. That's not leadership. It's just not. That's not how you take control of a party and push your agenda. While he's lashing out against the Republican establishment and the Rhino. You're lashing out against your own party? Well, take control of the damn thing. You're the president of the United States. But he hasn't worked on that. And all this talk that he's now decided that he's going to work with Schumer and Pelosi and teach those Republicans the lessons. What about we the people? What about the future of this country? What about the future for our children? Working with Pelosi and Schumer? They're very evil. They're evil. Now, President Trump broke his promise on DACA. It has nothing to do with the Republican establishment or the Republican Congress. He broke a major promise on DACA. And his key concern wasn't that it was unconstitutional. His key concern was that people who are here illegally should be deported. That's what he said. And that helped him beat the Republican field, and he beat these guys over the head with it. Now, if he had said during the Republican primary, look, I think what Obama did is unconstitutional, but if it were put in a statute, codified, voted on by the House or the Senate and passed, I could support it and I would sign it as president, many of you wouldn't have supported him. And he would have had great difficulty, at least in this area of immigration, of distinguishing himself from Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or so many others who've essentially said the same thing. He said just a few weeks ago, if we don't get a wall on the southern border, he's shutting down the government. Well, the Republican Congress didn't flip-flop on that. He flip-flopped on that by cutting his deal with Schumer and Pelosi, who are thrilled. In fact, Trump is thrilled. He calls them back. After he watches the lib media, after he watches some of his buddies on Fox, he calls them back. He's ecstatic. He says, look at all the great press we're getting. Look at all the great press we're getting. Some people out there saying, he saved the Constitution. He's a real constitutionalist here in what he's done. He sold us out on DACA. He sold us out on this deal with Schumer, this continuing resolution, because it doesn't include the wall. And he allowed them to attach the Harvey funding to it. It should have been separate. That funding should have been immediate, in my humble opinion, with no strings attached. No lard, no pork. And there are ways to offset that. We have massive, wasteful spending, fraudulent spending in this federal government. How many times does the GAO and the CBO and other auditors, the Comptroller General's office, have to put out report after report after report on things that can be cut? They won't cut them. They won't cut them. Now he tweets late today that he sat around, he waited for the Republican Congress after 7 years to do something, to repeal Obamacare. So he's cherry picking. He doesn't talk about DACA, where he's completely sold out. He doesn't talk about the wall, which he said he would shut down the government, completely sold out on that 3-month continuing resolution. He tweets out two things essentially today, late today. Number one, they did nothing on repealing Obamacare. And number two, kill the filibuster. Now, number one, let's talk about repealing Obamacare. Republicans were a disgrace, but the Democrats blocked them on everything. On everything. So why would you now throw in with the leaders of the Democrat Party who have undermined the American people, who've destroyed our health care system, who protect every syllable in Obamacare statute and the regulations? You're going to punish the Republicans by joining with Schumer and Pelosi? Pelosi, who are screwing the American people? These surrogates on TV, these columnists, they're not smart, they're not clever, they're propagandists. They're propagandists. Now he says he wants tax cuts as soon as possible. Well, we all want tax cuts as soon as possible. What's he going to do, throw in with Schumer and Pelosi? How will that work? Now Trump likes all the positive publicity he's getting. He loves it. He loves it. That's why he called Schumer and Pelosi. He said, look at all this great publicity we're getting. And the New York Times, which is one of the favorite recipients of leaks from the liberal Democrats in the White House, says he's liking this bipartisanship stuff. So his defenders are saying, yep, that's because of the Republicans. No, that's not what a leader does. He doesn't throw in with leftists because the clowns who lead the Republican Party are clowns. How does that work? I'll teach him a lesson. Teaching anybody a lesson. He likes the positive publicity. That's what they said. Schumer and Pelosi, if any other Republican had done that, you would all be condemning him. You'd all be condemning him. So the answer is you fight the Republicans by lurching left. Now we learn in a piece in Politico, another favorite leaking place for the liberal Democrats in the White House, that Trump has had Kirchner, his son-in-law, Jared, negotiating with Dick Durbin for months on DACA. Excuse me, it's Reuters. Number 2 Senate Democrat Dick Durbin has had multiple conversations with Jared Kushner and other top White House officials about how to protect the young immigrants known as Dreamers from deportation. Now, let me hit it again. Is this president going to round up the Dreamers and deport them? No, he's not, with or without DACA. Did the last President Obama do it before he pushed through a DACA? No. Did the president before that, George W. Bush, do it? No. Did the president before that, Clinton, do it? No. Did the president before that, George H.W. Bush, do it? No. This is a lie. None of these people are rounding up anybody except, criminals. And even sanctuary cities are protecting them. But they're not rounding up little kids and teenagers or anyone 31 and under, which is what qualifies for DACA. And Trump's not going to do it. So that is a flat-out lie. Flat-out lie. But Trump said he would do it during the campaign to get your vote, to distinguish himself from that big pack. And more, he's sounding like Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and all the rest when it comes to immigration, isn't he? Well, what's the difference? He's telling the Democrats and the Republicans, as long as you codify as a statutory matter DACA, he'll sign it. He'll sign it. Is that what he said when he was running for president? No. What does that have to do with the Republicans in Congress? That's his call. He made the call. He's not teaching anybody a lesson. Well, now we're going to, he's saying this will make it constitutional. He has the power to kill it. To make it constitutional by making it go away. But he didn't. He lurched left. On the debt, he lurched left. And I fear he's going to keep lurching left. Because this is what the media understand. They give him positive publicity. Now, in the end, as a matter of policy, it's a disaster. A man who ran as an outsider is now working with the quintessential insiders. People who've been in government most of their career. People who have been power players while they've been in government. Schumer and Pelosi, who are radical progressives, have absolutely no intention in supporting bipartisan government. As I said on Wednesday night, what's happening here is they get 95% of what they want. And in this case, I don't even know where we got the 5%. And so what's happening is Trump surrogates in the media like Huckabee, like Gingrich, you got Buchanan and others, they're saying, this is genius here. He's furious with the Republicans. You're furious with the Republicans, so you embrace Schumer and Pelosi? No. That's not at all what's happening here. The president is lurching left. That's exactly what's happening here. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The propagandists who are hitting the airwaves lately, the Democrats are going to grab everything they can from Trump lurching to the left and working with them. Look at that devious smile on that face of Schumer. Look at the devious smile on Pelosi's face. This isn't about the rhinos. Trump wants victories. Trump likes the liberal media praising him. And, of course, he also has the pom-pom boys and girls and the Rockettes all over cable praising him. You and I, we don't play mind games with ourselves. We're invested in the country. We're not invested in any politician. But the Democrats are invested in power. So when Trump, let me be clear, because I talked about this before the election, and it's back. When Trump picks up Nixonian habits, let me repeat it. When Trump picks up Nixonian habits, it's not going to benefit him any more than it benefited Richard Nixon. Nixon gave him the EPA, he gave him OSHA, he gave them affirmative action, he gave them massive deficit spending, he gave them wage and price controls, and I can go on and on. None of it mattered. In the end, they wanted him out. In the end, they want to take over the House and impeach Donald Trump. I've been talking about this since the night he was elected. They want to impeach him. Whether they can remove him in the Senate or not, depending on how many Democrats or Republicans are in there, that's their plan. They've already pushed and through the back door unleashed a special counsel who they hope will also create a pretext for his impeachment. But they want that House desperately. They're licking their chops. And Trump is helping them. Because if the people see that the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats are working with Trump, well, he's going to help them become successful, not him become successful. Very, very foolish. And this is because he and the people around him do not understand modern history, and quite frankly, they don't understand the nature of the forces that are swirling around them. They don't get it. Because they don't have any veterans from the Reagan days or other days, doesn't have to even be the Reagan days, helping them out. That is, conservatives. I'm not into this palace intrigue. Now and then I mention it, but I'm not into it day in and day out and so forth and so on. But I just want to be as clear as I can about this. This lurch to the left by Trump, it is a phony fig leaf. When he and his surrogates now say, after the fact, that it's because of the incompetent, buffoonish Republican leadership, and they are all that. He's lurching to the left because he wants to lurch to the left. He's not teaching anybody a lesson. He's able to go around and talk about how ecstatic he is because certain shows on TV are praising him. The left is a little less harsh on him. And the Democrats and the media, they know all this. They've been battering him, beating him down. It took 8 months. DACA is on him. The wall with that three-month CR that wasn't funded, that's on him. I'll be right back. Well, it's our turn now. We've watched these islands in the Caribbean and so forth. They've been whacked. And the latest tracking on this, and it really has changed in the last 12 hours, is it has moved slightly to the west. Now, this can change again. I don't pretend to know these things. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing and during the breaks as I delve into this. And having left Florida myself just yesterday with my parents, this is still a Category 4. That means sustained winds of at least 155 miles an hour, gusts up to 190 miles per hour. I mean, that's a big deal. It's moving at 12 miles per hour. It is a huge storm. I mean, the width of this thing is wider than the state of Florida. So even if a town or a city is not exactly within the cone, they're still going to get whacked. How badly? I have no idea. But one of my concerns is, with all these predictors of weather going on and on about this thing hitting the East Coast, of Florida, that's going to be its focus, and now it has moved slightly to the west coast of Florida. The people who wanted to get out at the southern tip of Florida and the east coast, southeast coast of Florida, who wanted to get out, got out. Most of them. But I fear a lot of people on the west side of the state who thought it was going to hit the east side of the state mostly. I'm not saying all, I'm saying a lot, probably didn't get out. Because there's no commercial flights, or I don't believe there are any left. Gasoline is very difficult to get, I know, because I had to deal with that as well. So, I don't downplay hurricanes. I don't pretend they don't exist. I don't pretend they don't exist at all. I think you better damn well take every one of them seriously. It amazes me. People say, well, last time it didn't hit me. Well, one time it may hit you. Then what? I mean, so let's say you're hit 1 out of 20 times. That's one time, and that's a big deal. So I don't play games with hurricanes. I don't get stupid, but I don't play games with them. Now, I would have stayed in Florida, but for two reasons. I was not going to leave my parents there, number one. And number two, I waited till yesterday to leave to see as close as I could where this thing was actually going to hit, and it was going to hit where we were. And by the way, it's still going to slam where we were, even as it shifts west. So, we're going to need to pray for our fellow citizens. It's a big deal. Imagine even being in your home. You got the hurricane shutters. You feel your home can withstand 170-mile-an-hour winds, something of that sort. Now imagine sitting in that house in the dark. Most people don't have generators. You got a couple of flashlights. The electricity goes out, and you hear the wind. Can you imagine that, Rich? Let's say 150-mile-an-hour winds. Do you know how scary that is? Many of us who live further up the East Coast or in other parts of the country, maybe we hear 40-mile-an-hour winds, 50-mile-an-hour winds. You hear it. The house kind of shakes a little bit. Imagine 3 times that much. It's a big deal. And imagine being right on the ocean. That's really a big deal. All right, but anyway, I'm just trying to give it some perspective because it's a serious matter. I don't play games with hurricanes. I just get annoyed with people who project their politics on top of it and talk about climate change, climate change, climate change. Mostly politicians and other hacks who don't know what the hell they're talking about and never do. And never do. We're going to play some audio a little later this hour, maybe next hour, but I also want to bring your attention to another point. I've touched on it before, but I haven't really elaborated enough. There's a lot of propaganda that goes on. There's a lot of positioning that goes on, and the media love it, and the media are involved in it too. In 2010, a spontaneous movement, a force, was created by the American people. People like you, in your own homes, your own communities, and neighborhoods. You'd had enough of Obama. You had enough of Obama already coming in, and you had enough of 8 years of Bush. So you're fed up with the rhino establishment, and we were involved in this, all of us. And here comes Obama. You go, okay, that's even worse. You took to the streets, patriotic Americans, pro-America, and peacefully did what Americans do. Good Americans. Peacefully, civilly, lawfully protested. I went to many of these rallies. I was involved in helping set up many of these rallies. I was there on the Capitol steps when 40,000 people turned out, and I spoke. My book, Liberty and Tyranny, was very, very important with the Tea Party movement. And, of course, we took the House of Representatives. We also took some Senate seats. Not enough, but some. The Republican establishment blamed me and you because they said they would have taken more Senate seats. Remember that? Karl Rove, Mitch McConnell. That's when I said, I've had it with these guys, particularly McConnell. Boehner comes in, and what does he do? He lies, and he starts trashing conservatives in the Tea Party. First thing he does is agree to a massive continuing resolution, a short-term continuing resolution, like Trump just did. Trump pulled a Boehner. That's exactly what he did. The Tea Party grew in strength. And you know who noticed it? Donald Trump. A couple of years in, he started attending Tea Party rallies. A couple of years in. A couple of years in, some of these newer websites joined in the Tea Party movement that you created, that we created, spontaneously. 2014, as you well know, the Democrat Senate was toppled and the Republicans took over. And they made McConnell the majority leader. And he lied to us. Lied to us. Then comes the Republican primary. Donald Trump gets the eventual nomination. Now here's what I want to tell you. I really want you to think about it, because many of you were in the Tea Party movement or the conservative movement. There wasn't a nationalist populist movement that created anything. There wasn't a nationalist populist movement, even today. The language that is used is Tea Party language. Tea Party language. Massive numbers of people didn't turn out. The Democrats in 2010 turned them out in 2014, elect Trump in 2016 because they believed in Herbert Hoover trade policies. Or they were code pink Republicans when it comes to national security. It had nothing to do with it. Nothing. We were told they would repeal Obamacare. Trump said it too, all of them. We were told they would secure our border and kick out the illegals, right? And we were told that they would repeal Obamacare. These guys didn't get elected on the Herbert Hoover trade policy or more massive infrastructure spending or having a George McGovern foreign policy. Never happened. So in many respects, the Tea Party movement was hijacked, with politicians and their staffers jumping to the front of the line. And they still keep talking about themselves. Now, the media love it because the media don't want to give any recognition to what actually occurred here. The Tea Party movement, conservative principles, rising up against big centralized government, over-taxation, over-regulation, not controlling the borders, fed up with the nationalization effectively of our health care. These have been positions of the Tea Party and serious conservatives, constitutional conservatives, for years. No politician came up with this. No staffer came up with this. No talk show host came up with it. No website came up with this. You came up with this. You did. And there are people trying to project their own politics, their own ideology, their own careers, politicians and others, on top of you. On top of you. We're not a populist movement. We don't reject the Constitution and the ideas of republicanism, not Republican Party, republicanism. We don't want our fellow citizens voting on our unalienable rights, whether or not we have a right to a gun, whether or not we have a right to due process, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, right to our religious practices. We don't want them voting on that. What is that crap? And we're not nationalists. We don't want an all-powerful central government. We believe in Americanism. Nor are we progressives, like so much of the Republican Party. The Republican Party leadership is progressive. And it's stunning when you think of Paul Ryan's career as a conservative. But the speakership and other positions over time have changed him. But McConnell's always been a progressive. He never supported Reagan in the Republican primaries. He was a Ford guy. He's not a conservative. And unfortunately, most of the Republicans are progressives. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Lamar Alexander, and so sure, here and there they have a conservative idea or a free market idea, great. But when push comes to shove, when the rubber hits the road or whatever line you want to use, they're not there. They're not leading because they don't believe in it. Does Trump? You got to fight these people in Washington if you want a wall. You got to fight these people in Washington if you believe DACA is unconstitutional and illegal aliens should be deported. But he's not. Despite his campaign rhetoric, he's not. These are unilateral decisions by him, having nothing to do with the Republican Party in that respect. And he's not buying favor with the Democrats by carrying favor with the Democrats. They will impeach him in a second if they can, if they take over that House. They're already drawing up the articles of impeachment, as phony as it is. And they expect to have the help of another phony, Robert Mueller, over there at the special counsel's office. Don't believe what the propagandists say on TV and so. You know who they are. The guests who show up. And you're wondering how they're going to spin this or spin that. I am the greatest defender of Donald Trump when I believe he's right and when I believe that there's an effort at a silent coup to overturn his presidency. On the other hand, when he lurches left and embraces Schumer and Pelosi, as he did 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, when he's got his son-in-law out there cutting deals with Dick Durbin, when they're pushing for more entitlements and more government spending, when he doesn't follow through on his promises, well, I will be his biggest critic. It's that simple. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
And yet, when Donald Trump gave his Gettysburg speech, he wanted you to believe he was a conservative. Remember that speech? In October? It was a conservative speech. When Donald Trump put out the names of the individuals he would nominate to the Supreme Court, the list he would use, all constitutional conservatives, he wanted you to believe he was a conservative, right? When he talked about tax slashing, he wanted you to believe he was a conservative. When he talked about all the deregulation he wanted to do, he wanted you to believe he was a conservative. Correct? There's a couple areas where he wasn't. His Bernie Sanders, Herbert Hoover approach to trade was one of them. But DACA, he made it abundantly clear he was going to get rid of it. So all this talk about he's upset with the Republican House and Senate. Now, you and I are more upset with the Republican House and Senate than he is because he's back Luther Strange, who is an incumbent from Alabama and a lapdog for McConnell. We opposed him. That's a funny way of showing us that he wants to get rid of these dug-in, entrenched rhinos. But the point is, some of these things he's surrendering. And the argument that's being made on his behalf is incoherent. It's nonsensical. Now, if you're already a CRTV subscriber, I hope you've loved the past few episodes as much as I've enjoyed making them. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking to wonderful, wonderful conservatives, patriots, who were in California and who asked a lot of great questions, a lot of tough questions. And I spent time answering them as well. And I bet they reflect a lot of what you're thinking, as a matter of fact. You see, because the thousands of people who come to my book signings, which are not covered by the media, the thousands of people who came to the Reagan Library and waited in line 4 or 5 hours at a book signing, they want our principles to be reestablished in this country. And this is why they love Ronald Reagan, and this is why they've come to these events. And if you haven't seen this, again, this spontaneous grassroots, we have a 5-part series on this. You really need to see it. People expressing the same kinds of principles and ideas as you. We had a great Q&A with the incredible crowd, a discussion with the Ronald Reagan Executive Director of the Foundation, my buddy John Hybush, and a lot more. We're doing the media the right way, folks. CRTV is bringing you the truth every day. If you're not a subscriber yet, give us a call today, 844-LEVIN-TV, 844-LEVIN-TV, and join the media revolution. We had a big program on North Korea as well, and we do this in ways that can't be done in other formats, in other places. So I hope you'll check it out. So this isn't that confusing. You have apologists and propagandists. You have apologists and propagandists for both political parties, and you have apologists and propagandists for the Republican leader in the Senate, for the Speaker of the House, and for the President of the United States. And they go on TV and they spin. Honestly, folks, I don't care about any of these politicians. I care about the country. I care about what's going to happen to your family, your children, and your grandchildren. All this game playing, all this positioning, all these interviews, it's of no consequence whatsoever. And so much has nothing to do with reality, either reality in your homes or reality of the politics. Like the spin now, that the reason Trump is lurching left and embracing Schumer and Pelosi is because he can't get things through the Republican Congress. So he's going to get left-wing things through with the Democrat minority and Republicans throwing it. Does that make any sense to any of you? While he's backing Luther Strange, Mitch McConnell's handpicked stooge from Alabama? While he said if Orrin Hatch runs for re-election in Utah, he will support him, another phony? And I can go right down the list. The arguments that Buchanan make, and Huckabee make, and Gingrich make are irrational. It's propaganda. It's projection. It's not substantive. It's not accurate. And it's very, very dangerous for the president, as well as very, very negative for the country. And it's dangerous for the president because he's empowering the party that is trying to take him out. And it is the party that will continue to try and take him out, no matter what he gives them. And he lied to us when it came to DACA. He had an immediate change of heart. I know that's a harsh word, but it's true. All right, here's a better one. He what? He disassembled? Well, you figure out one. But the point is, he didn't tell us the truth, did he? Now, I'm going to shut down the government if I don't get the wall. Next thing you know, you break your neck turning in the other direction. He's meeting with Schumer and Pelosi and cutting a deal. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Looks like Irma will hit Florida hard, I believe, early Sunday morning. Whichever part of Florida it hits. Just a big damn hurricane. So it will have consequences. And there's another one behind it called Jose. I'm waiting for people to protest that. But it doesn't look as big as Irma. What the hell do I know? I know as much as all these politicians talking. So we shall see. I don't have anything to add to this. I mean, and what am I supposed to do? Get on the air and tell people to get out? This has been going on for a week. If you don't know to get the hell out, or if you don't want to get the hell out, why is my saying it one way or the other going to have an effect on anybody? It's not. But I could sit here, all right, it's if you got to get out, get it. No, look. People will make their own decisions. And we will all be watching over the weekend very, very closely. And there are traffic jams. And there were traffic jams starting there, I would say, what's today? Friday? Tuesday. I started to see traffic jams Tuesday night, or heavy traffic, more traffic jams starting really Wednesday on 95 North. Then people would say, well, take the turnpike. Well, that was jammed up too. And of course, you have to have enough gasoline to get somewhere. And that's why all the long lines and so forth. So even if you're like a week ahead or 5 days ahead, it gets tough. When people are all watching this. I've got a home, as you know, on the east coast of Florida. I don't believe I've ever mentioned the town. Have I, Mr. Producer? I shouldn't. Now, it's a very nice place, but it's not one of these massive estates, with the Italian marble and the this and the rest. The vast majority of the money I spent on this house is in the structure. Let me give you an example for those who care. In the structure. This house, it's not small, but it's not massive. The living area is slightly over 3,000 square feet. But there are homes with 12,000 square feet, 20,000. No, thank you. No, thank you. Under this house are 66 pilings. Steel and cement pilings. You believe that, Mr. Producer? And they go all the way down to the hard rock. So they're drilled all the way down through the sand, through the soft, structure, till they hit rock. In some places it was 45 feet, in some places it was 25 feet. And it's a special density cement. It's a heavier cement, any special type of rebar or steel. There's 66 of them under this house. This house isn't going anywhere. It can be flooded. The ocean can come over it. Doesn't mean it won't, the water won't seep into it, and I'll explain that in a minute. But if there's ever another Atlantis, this house will survive and it'll be at the bottom of the ocean. There's even a standard-sized swimming pool. It's got 16 pilings under it. So they're not moving. They're not going anywhere. The walls are, in some places, 8 inches wide, some places 4 inches wide, but they're all steel and cement. And the roof has a massive structure, interior. Well, exterior too, but massive interior. A lot of it's hidden, so you can't see it. It's really built structurally like one of these huge parking lots, so it won't move. I also told the builder I don't want any wood outside. All stucco, PVC, this, that, and the other. So there is no wood outside. So the vast majority of the expense went into the structure. The problem is twofold. When you have a torrential, tropical, hurricane-like rain, it rains not vertically but horizontally. When you have 150-mile-an-hour winds, 130-mile-an-hour winds, or anything above 150, anything of that sort, the rain is not vertical, it's horizontal. And even though the windows in this house are built to withstand, that's what they said after all the testing, 210 miles an hour. The windows. The frames. The doors, each of which have 5 bolt locks. You turn it and go, and I mean big bolt locks. Again, it's built like a bunker, a real bunker. As tightly as that house may be sealed, water eventually finds its way in. I'll tell you how. Many ways. Number one, look at the garage. The strongest garage doors I could get for this house could withstand 170-mile-an-hour winds. That's pretty big. It's all steel. It's steel reinforced. It's the motors and so forth. And there's a generator. The problem is the water can get under there. So while the garage doors may not blow off, the water will seep under the garage doors. Even though the living area is on the second floor, the water will eventually seep through the various doors that go out to the deck on the second floor. French doors or other doors. Even though they're built massively, you hit it with your fist, you'll break your hand, and you'll break your knuckles. You hit it with a bowling ball, it will do nothing. Nothing. But you hit it with ocean wave after ocean wave or torrential rain that goes on for 10 hours, it starts to seep into the house. It finds a way. Also, under the roof. And the flooding starts around the house. I don't care how much, you've built an irrigation system, and mine is extensive. Again, all the money, vast majority of the money is put into the structure of the house. So this house, I'm quite comfortable, can withstand a hurricane. In other words, it's not going to be blown away, but all the landscaping around it will be. The dune will disappear. There are frangible walls on the bottom floor, compelled by code, so the ocean can wash through the property, not just bang into the property. And the goal there, I guess, is to relieve some of the pounding on the house and let it roll through the bottom part of the house. Not all of it, but big pieces of it. So all that can happen. But I did everything I could. It took a long time to get it designed and so forth, but this is the house I wanted, without going into any more detail. And you know the dangers. Oh, you have to be an idiot. You know the dangers. My problem is, it's been built now, for 3 years? I don't get down there enough. Even though I sometimes broadcast from it, I do Levin TV from our satellite studio down there. When I'm down there, I'm not really, at the house. I'm visiting family, make sure everybody's okay. So, and by the way, they just jacked up the assessment by 20%. I've been there 3 years, barely lived, just jacked it up 20%. So I said to them, okay, if this hurricane damages my house in any significant way, will you reduce it by 40%? This constant money grab, constant. And one of the biggest problems with these hurricanes, if you get through it okay, is the lack of electricity. You can be without electricity for days and maybe a week, maybe even longer, depending on what grid you're on and depending what it hits. And, of course, the reason why people are running in the Home Depots and Lowe's and CVS and Walmarts and everywhere else you can think of and getting water is because often the water systems fail. Or they are overtaken with salt water or whatever it is. Whatever it is. It's also the reason why they tell you to fill up your car. Keep it filled. And by the way, that's with any natural disaster. So you can get the hell out of there if you have to. In this particular case, because they were saying they're not sure where it's going, first it was the central part of Florida, then the east coast of Florida, now you see it's more west coast of Florida. I just decided, and my parents decided, we really need to leave. We're not clear where it's going to hit, but it's a big, big hurricane, and even if it's not a direct hit, it is a big hit. And you can have easily a lot of flooding and that sort of thing. And you saw what happened to the poor people in Texas and Houston area and Beaumont, Texas, and Lake Charles, and on and on and on. It's terrible. But it's Mother Nature. Mother Nature... the environmentalists want you to think Mother Nature is this, they want you to create an image of a mother who likes nature, of a hippie, basically. That's not Mother Nature. Mother Nature does nice things, and Mother Nature is the biggest killer on the face of the earth. And she's a random killer. And there's not a damn thing we can do about it as human beings. Nothing. Despite all the propaganda. We want to think there's something we can do about it. And, of course, the progressives want you to believe it because they're all about growing government under every and all circumstances. There's nothing we can do about it. If there were no automobiles in the United States of America, these hurricanes would still be hitting us. Ocean might get warmer. Ocean might cool off. We have no control over it. None. Nothing to do with anything we do. It's the sun. It's forces well beyond us. But, of course, for the progressive, and, of course, the progressive Republicans included, they want to give you an easy answer, and they want to give you an easy solution. And when the solution doesn't work, they never blame themselves or their phony science. What they say is, we're still driving too much, you're still living too lavishly, you live in a 3,000 square foot home, you need to live in an 1,800 square foot home. You have 2 cars, you need 1 car. This industry needs to shut down. We've got to kill the public utilities or whatever the coal industry is, Obama said. Well, so be it. Kill it. And, of course, they're going to create more and more brownouts and blackouts in this country, too. Anyway, I will be right back.
Mark Levin.
The strong, because the state or the town or whatever it is didn't much matter to me. I think the zoning requirement was 140 miles an hour. Maybe it was 170 miles an hour, withstanding those kinds of hurricane winds. I said, well, I want it 210. I don't give a damn what the state or the town says. It's my responsibility. So there's more steel and cement in this house than you can imagine. Like I said, if you've used underground parking lots, and you all have, then you know. No, you can't see most of it. But it's there. And everything was doubled up, tripled up. Everything. The walls, the steel, the roof, everything. Even the straps. I don't know all the technical words. I used to when they would tell me about it. The straps for the roof, they're industrial straps. They're not really for residential use. The structure under the roof, it's not really a residential structure. Again, it's more for commercial use. Everything is overbuilt. Even all the screws, extra long, extra thick, all steel, non-rusting treated or stainless steel. I can only build this house once, I'm not as rich as everybody else who broadcasts. I'm not in the poorhouse by any means. Not in the least. In fact, when I go online and I'm researching stuff, for some reason my name keeps popping up and they keep telling me how rich I am. Have you ever seen that, Rich, my producer? They tell me what I'm worth. First of all, I say, how do they know what I'm worth? Secondly, they're wrong. I'm worth more than they say I'm worth, I think. Although after this storm, you'll never know. We'll see. But just wanted to point that out. All right, folks. I know there are people out there who want to pretend that what Trump is doing is very clever, that it's anti-rhino and so forth, but just think for yourselves. Who are two of the most detestable politicians? Schumer and Pelosi. Why are they detestable? They're liars and they're leftists. Is there anything we agree with them on? So to say you're tired of Congress not acting, so you're going to lurch left and embrace Schumer and Pelosi is about the dumbest argument you can think of, right? And yet this is the dumb argument being used by Trump's buddies on TV, Trump's buddies in radio, and Trump's buddies in print. The Republican establishment had its chance. Now Trump is teaching them a lesson. By unilaterally abandoning his promise on DACA, he's teaching who a lesson? By saying one day that the government will shut down if I don't get the wall, and the next day you and I, our jaws hit the ground when he says, you worked this deal out with Schumer and Pelosi, and there's funding for 3 months and no wall issue, which makes, of course, they downplay. It's only 3 months. It makes it almost impossible when you move into an election year starting in January to get anything done. And so this is the situation. And the truth is, it's not just the rhino Republicans. That would be bad enough, and they are bad enough. But this piece from Reuters, number 2 Senate Democrat Dick Durbin has had multiple conversations with Jared Kushner and other top White House officials about how to protect young immigrants known as dreamers from deportation, the lawmakers said on Thursday. Of course, nobody's deporting them. Durbin, in an interview with Reuters, described Kushner as a conduit to his father-in-law, President Donald Trump, and open to the idea of doing something to help the 800,000 dreamers brought illegally to the United States as children. Kushner, a top administration aide with a broad portfolio that includes brokering a Middle East peace agreement, held private meetings at the White House with Durbin and Republican Senator Lindsey Graham in April and July, according to Durbin's office. It goes on and on and on. Well, the Republicans didn't do that. This was about DACA. This started in April. So Trump was looking to get out of his campaign promise from day one. And then has his son-in-law work on it. How does Buchanan explain that? He won't. How does Charles Hurd explain that? He won't. How does Huckabee explain that? He won't. How does Newt Gingrich explain that? He won't either. Because it's inexplicable. Unless you're completely selling out on the issue. Which unfortunately he has. What about the wall? I'll shut down the government if I don't get funding for the wall. That's what Reagan would do on issues. In fact, that's what Democrats would do on issues. I'll prove it to you. Let's go to Representative Luis Gutierrez, who is one of the most detestable people in Congress. Here's what he said today in a press conference talking about the Dreamers. Cut 7, go.
We have a Democratic caucus where I know the vast majority of members of the Democratic caucus are ready to say, if there is no pathway forward, not only for the 800,000 and for visas for all of you, but also for the rest of immigrant youth with the DREAM Act, then there is no government for anyone. We will shut it down or let the Republicans keep it open with their own votes. Let us be clear that the financial markets across the world need us to raise the debt ceiling. You want to put them at risk, Speaker Ryan? Then deny a peaceful and a secure place for our dreamers, and you will put it at risk.
Shut up, moron. But don't worry, Mr. Gutierrez. Donald Trump is on your side now. He loves you. And he's going to teach us all a lesson by codifying DACA. I'll be right back. Israeli jet fighters went into Syria to take out a chemical weapons plant on an army site there that they were turning over to Hamas and obliterated it. Now, you see, the Russians, well, they didn't shoot any missiles at the Israeli jets. I'm just pointing that out. their air defense systems, which are stationed in Syria. They didn't do a thing. I think this is why Netanyahu met with Putin. They say, look, we're going to defend ourselves. And we're not going to wait. This is important. You know, like we waited, and now look where North Korea is with their missiles. So I just wanted to point that out. You know, between your work grind and grueling schedule, it's easy to forget about the little things in life. But whether it's an out-of-the-blue gesture or just because surprise, it doesn't take a lot of time to make your friend or loved one's day brighter. Just go to 1-800-Flowers.com, 1-800-Flowers.com. Nothing tops the thoughtfulness or excitement of a 1-800-Flowers bouquet. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, that's only $29.99. 1-800-Flowers will give you another dozen. Free. Absolutely free. 2 dozen. Now, this beautiful arrangement of vibrant pink, orange, and purple roses will leave your loved ones stunned without spending a fortune. It's the best of both worlds. These gorgeous roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak, and they're shipped overnight to ensure freshness. When it comes to life's most important moments, only trust 1-800-Flowers. To order a dozen multicolored roses, plus an extra bouquet for just $29.99. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click the radio icon, enter the code Levin. That's 1-800-Flowers.com, code Levin, so you get the special deal. It's great, and you don't even have to go to the grocery store and pick through what's there and all the rest of it. Just do it right there with your handheld device, your computer, any way you want. 1-800-Flowers.com, but use code Levin, Levin, when you see the radio icon. That'll make a huge difference. All right. Donald Trump, yesterday, on Schumer and Pelosi. Cut one, go.
It was a very bipartisan meeting. We could have done a longer deal, but that would have affected the military, as you know, so we really kept it for 3 months because of the military.
Now stop right there. I heard that and I said, what the hell does that mean? Could have affected the military, meaning the Democrats wouldn't go along with it? Yeah, meaning the Democrats wouldn't go with it if we build up the military. So I got my 3 months. I thought this guy was the art of the deal guy. This is no deal. It's just no deal. Go ahead.
A great respect for the sanctity of the debt ceiling. And Chuck does, and Nancy does, and we all do. So that will never be a problem.
Oh, my Lord. The debt ceiling will never be a problem. Meaning he's never going to fight on the issue of the debt ceiling, which is really the only way to get spending under control. That's it. And here's how I know. Because he also said this yesterday. Cut two, go.
But I thought it was a very, very friendly. It was a meeting that we all wanted to get together and do something. And I think the primary reason was because you look at North Korea, you look at the hurricanes, you look at what's going on in the Middle East. And I said, frankly, it's time that we walk out and shake hands and have a deal.
Okay, and let's look at the debt, which is a massive man-made looming disaster. Go ahead.
And they agreed, and I will tell you, it was there was a lot of spirit in that room, a lot of good spirit. But the reason we have the 90 days, which will, I believe, quite easily extend, but certainly we will extend on the debt ceiling because
now there you go. We're going to extend on the debt ceiling. They're smiling ear to ear, like the Cheshire Cat, if you will. They're smiling ear to ear because they're there. We got them. We control the power of the purse. Now, we dump on the rhinos all the time. God knows I do. But Schumer and Pelosi will spend far more than they will. They will spend far more than they will. And he just said, look, don't worry about the debt ceiling. I understand its importance too. And don't worry about it. Go ahead.
That's really a sacred trust.
Do you want to get rid of that vote process entirely, Mr. President?
Well, I think that, it could be discussed. For many years, people have been talking about getting rid of debt ceiling altogether, and there are a lot of good reasons to do that. So certainly that's something that will be discussed. We even
All right, let's just hold off here. So, ladies and gentlemen, he wants to discuss something the hard left Democrats have been pushing for decades, and the Wall Street Journal editorial page. Get rid of this debt ceiling vote. Just let them run up the debt. Don't hold everybody hostage here. We're going to affect the spending and the this and the that. Don't make them make tough decisions on the debt. Get rid of the debt ceiling vote. Just let the debt ceiling be open-ended. Do you support that? That'll make the demise of our financial system and our economy much, much shorter in time, much closer in time. From the outsider, from the clean the swamp guy. That debt ceiling is the finger in the wall. It's the finger in the dike. You pull that out, and the water's going to run. This is the spendaholics dream. This is the progressives' dream. Get rid of that debt ceiling vote. We don't want there to be a tough vote. Reagan never called to get rid of the debt ceiling. I don't even know that the Bushes did, because they knew this gave them leverage to fight over spending with Congress. You have a president of the United States. Oh, is this how he's going to teach the rhinos a lesson? What about us? We're not rhinos. We elected this president. What about us? You're going to get rid of the debts? Boy, I wish that would have come up during the debates. You're going to get rid of the debt ceiling vote? Good Lord. That is a disaster and a disgrace. A disaster. It's a really sacred trust. No, the sacred trust is follow the Constitution. Live within your means. Stop running up the debt. If you stop running up the debt, you don't have to lift the debt ceiling, do you, ladies and gentlemen? Over a course of years, you start to bring it down. This is why the progressives win. Trump has lurched left. Oh, don't worry, he'll throw us a few crumbs along the way now. But he's definitely gone Nixon. Let me repeat it. Trump has gone Nixon. He likes the adulation. He likes it when the Democrats are smiling and shaking his hand. He likes to be called bipartisan. I bet the liberal Democrats surrounding him at the White House are telling him, look at this. You actually have an achievement here. You can claim it as your own, that it's bipartisan. You're funding all these wonderful things and so forth. You don't have all this fighting to do and, all this negativity. And, you can go down as a great president if you just spend, spend, spend. Do, grow, grow, grow. But all during the primary, I was told he's the art of the deal guy. Where? When? How? On DACA? Surrender. On the wall? At least initially, surrender. Oh, don't worry, we'll come back to that one, Mark. We're always coming back. Meanwhile, they keep winning. They keep winning. So the irrationality of his defenders, whether it's Huckabee, again, I'm calling him out by name, or Hurt, or Gingrich, or Buchanan, and scores of others, is, look, the way you get around the rhinos, the way you teach them a lesson, or they won't deal with him, they're trying to sabotage him, is to link up with Schumer and Pelosi. Is that what you think, folks? Is that how you clean the swamp? Aren't they part of the swamp? Aren't, in fact, the biggest of the swamp monsters? Schumer and Pelosi? If Trump had said during the debate, yes, I'm going to work with Schumer and Pelosi. Yes, I support DACA if it's codified. If he had said those things, would you have voted for him? I don't know that all of you would have. I don't know. But this is not the answer to the nation's problems. Certainly not in my view. Here's Newt Gingrich on Fox and Friends today. Cut 3, go.
I want to see what the left does. If Pelosi and Schumer make this a habit, they will have a rebellion on their left in a matter of weeks.
No. You don't get it either, as smart as you are. No, they're not. So why are you spinning like that? They're not going to have a rebellion. They're going to have a celebration. They're going to keep getting what they want and then turn around and try and win the House so they can impeach the man. We've been here before. We've seen this before. The left is not going to turn on them. I mean, Antifa, those crackpots, maybe. But that's not who they're counting on. That's the militia wing of the Democrat Party. They got to get to their voters. No, there's not going to be an uprising on the left if Obama, here we go. If Trump does left things. That's just foolish to say something like that. Go ahead.
One-time deal. For the president, it's a very smart deal. Mm-hmm. It gets momentum the first week back.
Momentum for what? Momentum for what? Momentum with the liberal press? Momentum for spending? Momentum for what? He says it changes the tone. Yes, of course it does. Yes, bipartisanship. Go ahead.
It gets the money to Houston.
The money to Houston. Why wouldn't we just vote to get the money to Houston, period? So now we have to raise the debt ceiling. We have to massively spend across all government programs and projects to get money to Houston. That's what I'm talking about. Gingrich 30 years ago wouldn't have talked like this. He would have been jumping up and down about the sellouts, about Bob Michael and Bob Dole and all the rest. Now he's one of them. Look, folks, this is a fundamental issue. All conservatives, I thought, agreed on this stuff. It's not cultural issues. It's not trade issues. It's not. This is basic stuff. The growth of government, the growth of the debt, getting it under control. Who controls the budget? This is basic stuff. Here you have Newt Gingrich cheering what Trump just did with Pelosi and Schumer. Changes the tone. Well, of course it changes the tone. If they throw in with the big spenders, everybody gets along just perfectly well. Now he's got momentum. Momentum for what? Go ahead.
It postpones the big fight over the debt ceiling for 90 days. And I think the president's attitude is, who knows what's going to happen over 90 days.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great. Great leadership. Postpones the fight over the debt ceiling for 90 days. That fight's been postponed, quite frankly, ever since Reagan left office. I would say over 30 years is long enough. Wouldn't you, ladies and gentlemen? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Some people just keep emailing me like I want to hear what they have to say. Oh, Reagan this and Reagan that. Excuse me, I lived it. I know full well what Reagan did. Reagan was tough. Very, very tough. And as time goes on, you realize what a great president he was. Even those who keep telling us to forget about Reagan as they want to talk about, Andrew Jackson or Franklin Roosevelt for the Democrats. Forget about Reagan. Well, why would I forget about him? But he was tough, man. I mean, he was a very kind man. He had a wonderful, charismatic personality and a very decent character. And he stared down the Soviet Union and defeated them. He wouldn't tolerate communism in our hemisphere. He couldn't, of course, undo what was done with Cuba, but he did undo what was done in some of the other countries south of the border, for which he was attacked. He built up the military massively, didn't pretend to, he actually did, for which he was attacked. He pushed R&D, for which he was attacked. And he shut down the government 6 times. He was tough. He should have written the book, The Art of the Deal. Then I see people rewriting history because they obviously believe in what Chris Matthews has said, that Reagan used to get along with Tip O'Neill. That is a lie. Reagan detested Tip O'Neill. Reagan went over Tip O'Neill's head and won over some Democrats by going to the American people directly. Tip O'Neill was out to destroy Ronald Reagan, as were all the Democrats. They wanted to impeach him, too. But he was a tough man when it came to his principles. Of course, he had to compromise from time to time. But he advanced his agenda. He advanced his principles. He knew what he wanted to do. He controlled, the Republican National Committee. He pushed the Republican leadership in Congress. They didn't always go along with him, but he sure as hell wasn't going to throw in with Tip O'Neill or Mike Mansfield, two leftists. Business travel is a game of wins and losses. An open seat next to you on your flight, you win. A reclining seat in front of you, well, that's a loss. Buying your business trip at Upside.com, that's not just a win, it's a triple win. Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotel, and rental cars. That's win number one. That's win number one. Win number two is how Upside rewards you with a gift card to places like Amazon.com every time you buy a business trip. Then there's number three. The third one is the amazing 6-star treatment you get from Upside's navigators, their customer service specialists. Navigators are instantly accessible 24/7 on the Upside app. You've never heard of anything like this, right? Even reaching out so you can avoid a problem before it happens. And I'm going to help you out right now with this. Go to Upside.com. Upside.com. Use my code MARK, and you'll get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. That's code MARK for a minimum $100 gift card. Yep. To Amazon.com when you buy your next business trip at Upside.com. This is a great service, folks. You ought to try it. Upside.com. You deserve a better business trip. Minimum purchase required. See the site for complete details. Upside.com, code MARK. And I'm going to tell you something. You folks who do a lot of business travel, or even not a lot, whether you're a very small, wholly owned business or part of a corporation, whatever, this is a big deal. And you really ought to try it out. If you try it out, you're not going to go to any other service again. That's Upside.com, Upside.com. Use code MARK so you get the special deals. That's code MARK. Just try it once. See if you like it. I know you will. And they give you a ton of personal service. So you're not having to guess and, jump around and that sort of thing. All right, this is what we're going to get. Bruce in Roseburg, Oregon, the great KUGN. Go.
Hello, Mark. I have a take on what Trump's doing, and I hope I'm right, that he's playing the art of the deal. I heard he just had lunch with Ryan, and we know Ryan and McCullen would give the extension on the debt ceiling anyways, most likely given on DACA. So I think he's told them, I've taken this off the table for 3 months, 6 months. You have 3 months, 6 months to get your troops and your act in order. Get health care, get...
It's all very interesting. All very interesting, except he didn't do one part of that. No part of that. That's just your speculation.
That's speculation, but all we have anymore is hope.
No, we have reality, and you're projecting your speculation because you trust this man, and you think he'll do the right thing, and he didn't do the right thing. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, everybody. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Now, interesting watching these developments on Hurricane Irma. Once it moves from Cuba and hits the ocean again on its way to Florida, they expect it to go from a 4 to a 5. They expect it to pick up even more speed. That is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. If this all holds to, as forecast, it's a big, scary deal. And by Saturday afternoon, people will definitely feel it coming. And by Sunday morning, early in the morning, it's going to start touching parts of Florida, apparently. Again, this track can change, but the trajectory as predicted right now is central to west. But the cone is so huge that clearly most of the state will be affected in one way or another. And, of course, the electricity, I'm just surmising it, is going to get whacked pretty good. Now, the public utilities there have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars moving electrical wires underground, removing wooden telephone poles and replacing them with cement telephone poles and so forth. But the grid clearly is going to be affected. So I just want to point that out. But as I sit here and think about it, as I said, last hour? This was supposed to, as of about a day ago or so, 12 hours ago, whatever it was supposed to work its way up the east coast of Florida. In fact, it was probably going to land right in my kitchen. But apparently it shifted across the state of Florida more toward the southwest and western side. And what concerns me about that, if this pattern holds, is that, as I say, based on earlier reports, a hell of a lot of people have left South Florida and should, and have left the east coast of Florida. But maybe people on the west coast of Florida, Fort Myers, Naples, that whole area, among others, did not, because they were figuring, well, the east side's going to get whacked, so at least I'm not going to get 150-mile-an-hour winds. That may not be true now. That may not be true. So they expected to bounce off of Cuba and go from a Cat 4 to a Cat 5. That's the latest. And have gusts of 190 to 200-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, you're talking, that's, and God only knows what happens to those waves if you live on the coast. So, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not into that. I don't need it for ratings or anything else. I just left there. I'm telling you some of the things I saw in terms of people preparing. And by the way, virtually everybody's taking it very seriously. And look, all the people in Florida can't leave. Some people just can't leave. And some people have no way out. They may not have gasoline. They may not have a car. Well, there's buses. There aren't enough buses. Or maybe they don't feel they can leave a family member. If we hadn't found a way out, I wasn't going to leave my parents. There's no way. But we'll see. Some of these times they do hype this stuff. The media types, the reporters do. I don't believe the hurricane forecasters do. But the middleman, the various hosts and so forth. But, I mean, you and I, we're looking at the same maps that these people are looking at. You see the same colors on the map. You go to NOAA, the hurricane charts. I do, rather frequently, and I'm looking at them too. And it's not going away. And it's not going to go away until it's done. All right, one other thing on this DACA stuff, and I'm hitting it hard because it deserves to be hit hard. There's a great piece at Conservative Review run by our buddy Gaston Mooney. I'm editor-in-chief. He handles all the day-to-day operations. And our senior editor, Daniel Horowitz, brilliant, brilliant young man. He says there's 10 questions Trump and every Democrat must answer about dream amnesty, and not just every Democrat, the Republicans too. Number one, a mockery of the Constitution and statute. How can we expect other countries to respect our sovereignty when even during the suspension of amnesty, you make it clear that you're willing to keep amnesty for 6 months and even reinstate the affirmative benefits if Congress does not act, just like Obama threatened? He's talking to Trump. Number two, amnesty after amnesty after amnesty, which we've talked about. Once we agree that there is a sense of urgency to grant amnesty, but not an emergency to first secure the border and end illegal immigration, what's to stop this amnesty from resulting in the same flood of new waves of illegal immigration, as has consistently happened in the past? An amnesty first approach, with promises of enforcement later, has already been tried. It failed. What about Americans first? Exactly what we talked about the other day. Immediate amnesty for parents. We talked about this too, but I like the way Horowitz lays it out here. Once you agree to the premise that there is a moral obligation to grant those brought here as kids not just amnesty, but a path to citizenship, Won't the next argument be we can't divide up families? This will lead to the immediate clamor to grant amnesty to the parents. Senator Dick Durbin is already saying this. Will we ever draw a line? No, because amnesty is now an entitlement. Amnesty, number 4, brings chain migration. Within 5 years or so, the newly amnestied illegals will then be able to bring in their family members like any other American. So this isn't just about 800,000 people. This is endless chain migration of low-skilled immigrants draining our welfare state. How is it moral to the American citizen to pass amnesty before securing an agreement to pass the RAISE Act? Now remember, that's an act that provides different standards for legal immigration, led by, among others, Tom Cotton, who is a terrific senator. Number 5, the next wave of dreamers. The DACA amnesty applied only to those brought here as children before 2007. Thus, it's mainly for those who are currently in their 20s and 30s. Mainly in their 20s and 30s. Once we agree that there's blanket entitlement for amnesty, Daniel, you must be listening, that there's a blanket entitlement for amnesty for anyone brought here as a kid, with the fiscal and cultural burden borne by Americans, by no fault of their own, of course, what about the next generation of dreamers? The minute this amnesty passes, there will be a clamor to amnesty those who are even younger, roughly 1 to 12 years of age. They will have an even more sympathetic argument for amnesty. Ironically, we have been flooded with hundreds of thousands of Central Americans precisely because of DACA amnesty, yet they aren't part of the program. What happens to them? What happens to the new wave spawned by that amnesty? Don't kid yourselves. This isn't a limited amnesty. Once you telegraph the message that as soon as someone successfully comes here illegally and puts down roots, we will not have the stomach to deport them, why would that change during the next cycle? Exactly right. Number 6, endless litigation from amnesty will paralyze enforcement, even without amnesty. The courts are already blocking deportation even of criminal aliens. Once amnesty's passed, sure, we can get broad criteria to only give green cards to good people, quote-unquote, but this will essentially burn all enforcement to the ground because so many people will have to be afforded the opportunity to litigate themselves into status, including criminal aliens. This is why amnesty always incentivizes a new flow. And there are not only good people. 30% of the Central American kids now coming over the border have ties to gangs. 30%. How's amnesty before judicial reform not national suicide? Number 7, how will this not become a massive fiscal drain on Americans? Despite the talk of dreamers being the most brilliant, productive people of all time, the reality is that they are by and large a poor demographic, particularly the ones from Mexico. And why officially they wouldn't be entitled to welfare immediately, they get billions in refundable tax credits. Moreover, because of the outrageous and unconstitutional policy of unqualified birthright citizenship for illegals, a travesty he says he covers in depth in his book, they can immediately secure welfare on behalf of American-born children. Number 8, foreign nationals in control of our citizenship process. Speaking of unconditional birthright citizenship, how is it fair to grant retroactive amnesty to those brought here as children before we prospectively fix the birth tourism and anchor baby scams? We'll obviously honor the citizenship already granted under the false interpretation of the 14th Amendment, but without a proposal to change birthright citizenship first. The DREAM Act would expand our anchor baby magnet to an anchor teenager phenomenon. He's right. There's the chain migration. There's the anchor baby issue. There's no end to this. You don't secure the border. More and more, quote-unquote, kids will be brought here against their will, no fault of their own, into the United States. Next cycle, next cycle, next cycle. And he's also right about this DACA applies to people brought here before 2007. What about people brought here before 2017? That's the next wave. Number 9, why on earth would we grant any amnesty before fulfilling the sacred obligation to the American people by deporting the 2 million criminal aliens in this country? 2 million. Almost 1/4 of the federal prison population is made up of non-citizens. And if you read Liberty and Tyranny, I spent a lot of time on this. And why is this even a partisan issue? Why on earth, with all the crime we have domestically, would we hold the criminal population of another country? There are 925,000 aliens with pending deportation orders who still haven't been deported. Sanctuary cities have just released 10,000 criminal aliens who went on to commit crimes. Our ICE agents are understaffed and are now stymied by sanctuary cities and sanctuary courts. Why is Trump not making Pelosi tweet with urgency to protect Americans before he tweets about her amnesty? Because he has surrendered on this. He's thrown it out the window. Number 10, one issue that we've talked about endlessly. What about fixing visa overstays first? More than 600,000 people who overstayed their visas in 2016 alone still remain in our country. This is a violation of our sovereignty and was the core security gap that led to 9/11. Why would we make an emergency of amnesty before fulfilling the responsibility to the American people to fix our visa tracking system? So, you see, they claim this is compassionate. Compassionate for whom and to whom? Yes, for whom and to whom. And yet this debate is really not allowed on network TV or cable TV or satellite TV, and apparently in the halls of the White House. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to take those who disagree with me first. Thomas, Yonkers, New York, the great WABC. So, Thomas, what is the great Trump plan behind all this? Go ahead.
I'm just speculating. Trump may have found a way around both the Republican and Democratic establishments. The Republicans want...
Let's just slow down on your premise. So he throws in with Schumer and Pelosi, and somehow he's found a way around the establishment. This will be good. Go ahead.
Okay. The Republicans wanted an 18-month extension of the debt ceiling. Trump cut a deal with Schumer and Pelosi for a 3-month extension. Now, he might even...
Stop. And in that extension, they were willing to start funding the wall, weren't they?
Right. With that extension, he may use that as a lever to get funding for the wall.
No. But the Republicans were preparing to put funding in for the wall because Trump had drawn the line and said, if we don't have funding for the wall, I'm going to shut down the government.
Oh, the Republicans...
Why are you ignoring what I'm saying?
No, I'm not ignoring. I didn't realize that the Republicans had funding for the government in their plan.
They were going to put funding into it because Trump said he was going to close down the government if he didn't get it.
Okay.
In fact, Ryan says we've already done that. We're waiting for the Senate. Thank you for your call. I can't have dead air for 5 seconds. Let's go. Joe, Staten Island, New York, the great WABC. Go.
Hey, Mark, how you doing? I just
all right.
I told the guy to tell you I'm a New York City fireman. I know you always.
How you doing, baby?
I'm doing good.
How you doing with your communist mayor?
Oh my God! Well, I can't say nothing because I got to be tired.
Yeah, all right. You're right. Be careful. All right. Let me just say I feel I speak for you. Go right ahead.
I agree with everything you say. I just what I told you, your screen caller was, I don't hear anybody saying all of a sudden Trump is going left, and Bannon has been out, Gorber is out. I know they're more nationalist than conservative, but all of a sudden all these guys have been kicked out, and now all of a sudden he's making a move to the left, and I haven't heard anybody say that on TV, and I think that's one main.
Well, Bannon and Gorka, both who are friends, have been all over TV. So why haven't they said it?
No, but I mean But what I'm saying is that I haven't heard anybody say the reason why Trump is going to the left.
No, but why aren't they saying it? Right? They were in there.
Right. Because I think they're giving him a chance. But I think I love Trump. My kid brother liked him before. I was a Rubio guy, and I like Cruz. My brother liked him first.
You might as well be a Rubio guy because that's what this docket is, pretty much, or a Jeb guy, or a Kasich guy, or Lindsey. I can't think of those guys doing anything differently on this than Trump. Can you?
No, you're right. And if he forgets about the wall, then I'm done with him. If that doesn't happen, then I'm done. And then I don't know what I'm going to do because I really was I had faith in this guy. If he doesn't do that, then he was all show. And,
I mean, he's done a number of good things. He really has. But this is big stuff, and he promised. And to throw in with Schumer and Pelosi, really, and then to see his propagandists in the media go on and on about how this is a masterstroke. How many more times do we have to hear those stupid comments?
Yeah, nobody supports him, so I guess they feel like they have to support him in a way because everybody's going against him. I'm willing to give him a chance, a break here. Maybe he's doing some kind of maneuver. I don't know.
Oh, Joe, wait till you hear the next caller. He's going to tell you what the special maneuver is. So, in other words, selling out to Schumer and Pelosi, that's a special maneuver. Watch, you're going to hear this. All right, Joe?
Can I ask you one question?
Yes, brother.
I just, the guy didn't want me to bring it up. I agree with everything you say about it, but I don't understand why infrastructure, I believe in that, isn't a federal government thing, because to me that's like almost that.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because they waste enormous amounts of money, because states spend an enormous amount of money in localities on infrastructure, and the federal government doesn't have any money.
Yeah, but don't you think it's important as far as...
Listen to me. The federal government doesn't have any money.
Right.
I think infrastructure is important, but what infrastructure are you talking about? Anything specific?
Airports and bridges?
No, not airports and bridges. Which airport?
Well, the ones over here, Newark and LaGuardia, was a disaster.
So taxpayers in North Carolina should pay for LaGuardia and Newark.
Because it's an interstate thing. That's why.
No, it's not an interstate thing. They're controlled by the states and these commissions they set up. It's not my responsibility to pay for LaGuardia. It's not your responsibility to pay for Dulles.
Right, I got you. Okay.
Otherwise, why shouldn't everything be federalized?
No, but to me, as far as highways and stuff like that, I thought it was a national.
But we have a federal highway system. We're not talking about fixing a federal highway system. We even have a trust fund for our federal highway system. You know they drained every penny out of it?
No, I don't.
With a federal highway trust fund. There's nothing left in there. You know what they used it for? Bike paths and fixing airports and doing this and doing that. All right, Joe, I'll be right back, everybody. I'm going to tell you about the least reported, most important story in a moment. Now, you know I love my Casper mattress. There's so many reasons, but right at the top is being able to sleep cool, comfortably, and fully supported every single night. And that's thanks to Casper's 2 high-tech foams. Another reason is Casper ships for free in a box so small you won't even believe it holds a mattress. They do this so you can try it risk-free for 100 nights. That's over 3 months. And you get to try it in your own home, not in some strip mall office or store. If you don't love it, they'll come pick it up and refund you everything. From its breakthrough design and superior quality to its packaging and 100-night in-home trial, it's no wonder Casper was named one of Fast Company's 50 most innovative brands of 2017. Now, look, you've heard me talk about this for several years now, and I know you all don't have a Casper mattress. You may be thinking about a new mattress. Maybe the dog, had a little mistake or accident on your mattress. Take that mattress, lean it against the wall, try the Casper. You can try it for free. No risk. Get rid of your heat-trapping mattress. Get a Casper like I did. Try your Casper for 100 nights with free shipping and returns. Go to Casper.com and use code MARK. Casper.com, use code MARK. And you'll save $50 towards the purchase of your mattress. They're already priced very, very well, but it's another $50. That's Casper.com, code MARK. Get $50 towards the purchase of your new mattress. Casper.com, terms and conditions apply. This is the story. Daily Caller, FBI says, the FBI chief says he has not seen White House interference in Russia collusion probe. FBI Director Christopher Wray said Thursday that he has not witnessed President Trump or the White House attempting to influence the ongoing investigation into Russian meddling in the presidential campaign. Here's something that comes to mind immediately. Will the FBI be investigating itself? Now, remember, there were reports that there was Russian interference in our election. Obama knew about it month after month after month after month, but sat on it until close to the end of the election. He knew it because he was advised of it by the FBI and the FBI director, Comey. Other intelligence and national security, organizations told him as well. So Russia was meddling in our election. They're investigating. Are they going to be investigating the fact that the investigators themselves were ineffective? Are they going to be investigating the fact that the Obama administration did nothing effective about it? I can say very confidently that I have not detected any whiff of interference with that investigation, Wray said during a speech at an event hosted by the Intelligence and National Security Alliance in Washington, D.C. Have you seen this in many places? No, I don't think you have. Here's another one you probably haven't heard. From Politico, of all places. Notes from meeting with Russians said not to be damaging to Trump family. Notes from former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort on a meeting he attended last year with a Russian lobbyist and Donald Trump Jr. are not seen as damaging to the Trump family or campaign officials, according to government officials and others who looked at the notes. Now, who would look at the notes other than members of Congress or the FBI or both? The Trump Tower meeting has come under scrutiny because Trump Jr. wrote in an email that he agreed to the encounter in order to find dirt on Hillary Clinton. And by the way, isn't that what the media do? Aren't they trying to find dirt on the Trumps? Yes. Well, that's very immoral, very unethical. And do you think if the Russians gave them dirt on Trump that they would ignore it? No, I think they gobble it up and wind up on the front page of the New York Times. I think CNN would run with it first and have to report a retraction because they screwed something up, as usual. Just my surmise. The Trump Sessions Department of Justice has no plans to charge Lois Lerner in the IRS scandal. Any of the pom-pom boys and the Rockettes want to defend that one, too? You should see the idiots commenting on my Twitter. Just stupid. Maybe they'll comment on this, too. You don't understand, Mark. It's the Republicans in Congress. He's just decided, to teach it. Wait a minute. That has nothing to do with it. You don't understand. We're playing, 17 levels of chess here. And, and you don't understand how this works because, you just don't know, you schmo. It's kind of comments I'm getting on the Twitter site. Very bizarre. He sells out to Pelosi and Schumer, and he's defended. But let me suggest this base is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller if the president doesn't keep his promises. There will be the headbangers. There will be the frothing types. That's okay. But it's not going to be the majority of his base. Because it's not a cult of personality. And if you make promises and you don't keep them, you tick off a lot of people. And particularly in Trump's case, because really a lot of people just relied on his comments. They considered it very refreshing. He was willing to say what he wanted to say in the way he wanted to say it, no matter whether people wanted to hear it or not. And that's why some of this is truly mind-numbing. There's no strategy behind this. It's a shift to the left to get positive news, and the president's pom-pom boys and girls and the Rockettes are giving him his positive news, and so is the lib media. And he likes it. But that doesn't explain a promise that is broken, a big-time promise. That's unacceptable. You understand these Republican cowards. The DACA thing has nothing to do with Republicans. The president can unilaterally eliminate it. But he effectively extended it for at least 6 months. Rich, Percival, Virginia, the great WMAL. Go.
Mr. Levin, good evening. Just a couple comments.
Good evening.
Thank you for the educational information you present in your show every time you go on the air. You definitely don't see that in mainstream news or paper or anything like that. It's very refreshing. I wanted to pass that on to you. Second of all, the lurch to the left by the president, you already summed it up quite well. It's not brilliant strategy. It's not some art of the deal. He did it for himself to feel good and to get good press. And that's pretty sick, and it's a betrayal. Also a betrayal is the lack of leadership for the entrenched, self-serving individuals who are elected to represent the people, not themselves. And I just cannot believe that the people who have been in office for such a long period of time did not have a health care repeal and tax reform ready to go for the president when he got sworn into office on the day he got in.
You're quite right. And alternatively, that the Office of Management and Budget in the executive branch didn't have one soon after the president was elected, soon after the president was sworn in, if Congress wasn't. I can tell you a lot of the legislation that occurred in the 8 years of Reagan was presented and pushed out of the executive branch. By the way, you want to hear something pathetic?
I do.
Over at legalinsurrection.com, one of my favorite sites, Planned Parenthood chief on DACA, every person has a right to live. This nitwit doesn't even understand that she sounds like a nitwit. All right, Rich, take care of yourself. Let's continue. Rod, Dallas, Texas, the great WPAP. Go.
Oh, good evening, Mark. Delighted to get through.
Thank you.
A retired firefighter and now a public school, high school teacher.
Wow.
At some time in my life, I've lived in all four of our southern border states. And I'm thinking, I'm not that smart. Surely I can't be the only one thinking this, but I questioned one of my students who was an immigrant of indeterminate legality, shall we say.
Yeah.
And I asked him what his father did for a living. And he said, well, my father runs, he has a house remodeling, he's in construction. And I said, and then he said, he's starting a business with my uncle to do lawn service. I said, okay. Now then, you are pushing for unfettered immigration, with pretty much without restriction. What kinds of jobs do you think these new immigrants are going to be able to get, if any? And I told him it's likely going to be lawn service, construction, house remodeling, labor trades.
All right.
And so do you really want this vast invasion of people who are going to be competing
and what did he say?
And putting him out of business?
And what did he say?
He had no answer.
All right, man. Appreciate the call, Rod. Trying to get the disagreeers, as we'll call them. Donald, Gilbert, Arizona, the great Sirius satellite. Go quickly, please.
Right. Well, the debt extension for 3 months might actually be a better idea because you can maybe get better concessions out of both Republicans and Democrats as opposed to an 18-month extension. I'm not saying it's the best idea, but a shorter time period does work.
I have a better idea. No extension until we get some of the things done that we're talking about. Do exactly. You just heard Luis Gutierrez say last hour that they're going to shut down the damn government, that they're going to put this DACA thing on every single bill they can think of. By the way, this is the Soros strategy. Soros put out the statement, or his people did the other day. I just feel too many of us are falling for this stuff. An 18-month extension. Who said anything about an 18-month extension? I didn't.
It was the Republicans' original.
Well, so what? The president should say no. I said I want money for that wall or I'm shutting down the government.
Hey, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I can see...
No, but you're saying his 3 months is better. It's not. What did he get for it? Nothing. Zero. So why is it better?
I'm just saying that it could be better the 3 months...
No, but let's talk. Why? What did he get out of the 3-month extension? What did his voters get out of the 3-month extension?
Nothing.
Not a damn thing. Right. And now he's being praised and he's enjoying his press, you see.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking if you get actual real budget as opposed to this, let's do everything in one item and, type of deal. No, but there will be do everything in one item type of deal. It always is, and that's what they're going to do. That's why you have to take a stand and say, all right, like Reagan did, I'm taking a stand, I want that XM missile system. Okay, Mr. Trump, I'm taking a stand, I want the wall. But he didn't. How do you say 2 weeks ago that that's what you're going to do, and then 2 weeks later you're cutting your deal with Schumer and Pelosi? I don't know. And I would start off with the...
So why excuse it? You can still like the president. You can still like 90, 70, 80% of what he's done. But this is a big deal promise. If you excuse it, it's going to happen more often. All right, my friend. Thank you for your call. We've all experienced a shattered phone screen, right? It's frustrating. It's expensive. But even more concerning, researchers discovered that broken screens are often replaced with aftermarket parts that can be tampered with. Tests show that malicious chips embedded in displays can be used to hijack your phone. Attackers can impersonate you, take photos without your knowledge, and log your activities. That's pretty scary. Make sure you get that cracked screen replaced by a reputable vendor. Someone's identity is stolen every 2 seconds. It can be stolen in ways you may not detect if you're only monitoring your credit. Thieves could sell your information on the dark web or get on an online payment loan in your name. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats. If there's a problem, U.S.-based identity restoration specialists will actually work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. LifeLock can uncover threats that you might miss, and they're the best. So go to LifeLock.com, LifeLock.com, or call 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock. But in either case, use promo code Levin, that's Levin, and get 10% off your LifeLock membership. Save 10% right now with promo code Levin. Call 1-800-LifeLock or visit LifeLock.com.
Mark Levin.
In addition to George Soros, coalition of billionaires here, folks, the Koch brothers will push Congress to protect dreamers. This is from the Daily Beast. The political network of libertarian billionaires Charles and David Koch is poised to back a bill protecting young undocumented immigrants from deportation. You know, those in their 30s and 20s. Spokespeople for the Koch network confirmed to the Daily Beast it will press Congress for a legislative fix to the recently rescinded Obama-era program known as Deferred Action for Children Arrivals, that shielded undocumented immigrants who came to the country's children. The Koch's backing could provide a crucial boost to efforts to preserve DACA, which Trump announced this week he will phase out over the course of 6 months. Why didn't he just phase it out? Now, immediately. Congress has scrambled, and he also has said that if it doesn't work, that is, Congress doesn't get something done, well, we'll have to take another look at this. So he's backed up completely on this. He's got support from the Koch brothers, from George Soros, and he's thrown in with Schumer. I mean, this is bad, okay? You can still like Trump, but this is bad. Ladies and gentlemen, every Friday in associated areas, good luck and Godspeed, truly. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. Good night, Spritey. Good night, Griffey. Good night, Pepsi. Good night, Smokey. Good night, Zelda. This show, like all my shows, is dedicated to my parents. Get all the terrorist pigs. Oh, yes, get them all. Also, sorry to see the tragic death of Troy Gentry today, too. God bless you all. Be safe.